Sitting alongside the River Trent lies the Trentham estate. Beyond its formal gardens is a reintroduced animal that's been missing from this landscape for 400 years.
This secluded and secure spot is a perfect habitat for one of nature's greatest engineers, helping transform the landscape, the Eurasian beaver.
Harvey Tweats is the estate's beaver and wildlife ranger.
What was it about this site that made it so right for that reintroduction?
Beavers are ecosystem engineers, so it means that the habitats they create through their various actions are absolutely fundamental to wetland health. Insects increase, birds increase, all manner of the food chain increases as a result of the work that they do. And this here is just absolutely characteristic beaver behaviour.
This is them?
This is them.
Wow, look at you can see how sharp it is. It looks like it's taken an axe to that. Wow, those teeth.
But if you notice, you can see those key teeth marks there. And that is these huge incisors, which actually the enamel is enriched with iron, and that's them working on that surface. And they're doing that to fell these stems in order to get to those tender branches and buds right at the top of the tree. That's where the sugars are, and it creates
Harvey.
all sorts of benefits for the wider ecosystem. But also for us too. On this part of the lake is a dam wall, and as such we have to maintain it fairly open from trees, and this would have originally been maintained by people. But here this is a prime example of where we're using a nature-based solution to help a human-made problem.
So the beavers know the work that needs to be done almost,
Exactly.
saving you a job or two.
It's testament to the success of the reintroduction here that by working with experts at the Beaver Trust, the Trentham beaver family has quickly grown.
So Harvey, what was it like to welcome those first beaver kits here?
Well, it was just incredible to see the first baby beavers in Staffordshire for 400 years. It just makes you feel so excited.
And how has it impacted the area?
The first thing is obviously the reduction in that tree cover is allowed for more plant diversity. But more importantly, when they fell these big sticks into the water, that creates perfect habitat for fish to spawn because it's relatively protected. The wood is rotting, so there's lots of insect and invertebrate food dropping into the water.
So how do you protect the trees that you don't want them to tuck into?
We can actually draw on the experience from North America and Europe, where people have been living with beavers for hundreds of years. It's just to put a bit of weld mesh in a ring around the trunk or the stem of the tree, introduces a bit of inconvenience to the beaver. And I think that's been the key lesson, is that if we can live with beavers in, with a garden landscape and with, over 1 million visitors a year, then anywhere can.
And as we head into spring, what's on their agenda? What needs to be done?
Babies.
Oh, okay.
Beavers mate around Valentine's,
Oh, bless.
between sort of Christmas and Valentine, and they start now to line the nest. They're starting to prepare. They need to put down that layer of fat and maintain it, not only to stay buoyant in the water column, but also just to stay warm, because considering this rodent is more aquatic than a hippo, that water is not heated, it's going to be cold. It'll be probably late spring, early summer before we, definitely know how many we've got. But yeah, we know that they'll be busy at work now preparing.
Such an exciting time. And can I see a bit more of sort of where you've housed them or where they're living or?
Yeah, sure.
Great.
They're on an island at the moment. We're going to have to take the boat.
All right, okay.
The water's a little bit chilly. Thankfully, I get to cross the lake in the relative comfort of the estate's catamaran. And while stepping onto the island is usually reserved for staff, I'm helping Harvey set up food for camera traps so he can monitor the hopefully expectant mum.
So right now, almost underneath our feet, there'll be 4 beavers curled up in that lodge there. So they actually build this structure and a chamber within, and that chamber will be lined with leaves and bracken to make it really, really cosy. They'll enter the lodge from an underwater burrow that comes up towards the lodge right there. And because it's the day and beavers are nocturnal, probably be snoring.
So this is quite a castle in beaver world.
It is. These lodges can get up to 2.5 metres tall. We've even seen them be built using bricks. So they'll reclaim bricks and rocks. They'll use anything, and that'll be the place where the female ultimately gives birth in late spring, early summer.
So they want it to be nice and cosy.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't normally feed them?
This is what I like to call a bit of a sweet treat or an incentive. Especially in the winter, we don't see the beavers in person as much as we would in the summer or the spring, and that's because it's darker. So what we do is we actually put a couple of apples out in front of a camera so we can capture their health. Is their coat condition good? Have they got that good layer of fat? Do they have any lesions? Anything like that. It really is a welfare consideration. So these are the trap cameras that we actually use to record the beavers, essentially at night. They're triggered by the motion of the beavers and instantly start recording. I think we put some apples down. They'll eat over 300 different species of plants, but often when they're feeding on twigs, they actually eat them a bit like corn on the cob. So they cut these twigs up into beaver-sized pieces, as it were, and they rotate them round and like that. It's very, very cute.
Oh my goodness, well I hope they like this treat. And I hope it gives you a bit more of a close-up of the little ones that have arrived.
Beaver reintroductions like this are currently managed by licence.
And what do you think the future is for reintroduction? Is it projects like this? Because I imagine this isn't cheap, or is it just reintroducing them into the wild? What's your view?
I really hope that the government does start to move towards wild reintroductions. This enclosure did cost a lot of money, you know, £300,000 and more. And so we hope that money like that could actually be spent more on mitigating rather than building a big fence. And we are starting to see that. So in Scotland, you know, that's happened now. Beavers can be legally reintroduced into the wild without a barrier.
Across the water, the estate's bird population is reaping the benefits of the beaver's presence. An increase in the lake's fish stocks is a welcome source of food for the heron population. Ranger Duncan Coleman is monitoring nest builds as they approach breeding season.
The reintroduction of the beavers into this area, that's good news for the herons?
Amazing news, because it is going to provide great habitat for their food source. So the more the beaver fells trees and kind of stashes food in the water and creates snags and deadwood, that's just amazing for a whole range of animals that live in the water. So it just creates a nice little nursery ground for the fishes, which benefits the herons.
And do you know how many herons you have on the site?
We think we had about 17 nests last year, so that would be 17 breeding pairs. But historically, we've had up to 42 nests.
And were they introduced here, or did they just find their way here, or was it a project that landed them here?
The grey heron is a native resident bird. This would have been a wet place next to the Trent, so it would have most likely been a mixture of different wetland habitats, marshland, fenland, wet woodland. So they've been here for thousands of years, most likely.
And spring in the air, what does that mean for the heron population here?
Spring in the air here, it gets quite raucous, so they are quite noisy. They're a bit prehistoric in the noise they make. They are very sort of squawky, brings to mind like a pterodactyl. Plus the shape in the air, they are quite a large bird. So it is very much a loud time of year. They're going to be gathering together, they're going to be getting into their breeding pairs, they're going to be territorial disputes, they're going to be gathering nest material. So it's kind of lots of prepping ready for when the eggs are laid.
And what is it you like about them?
I've always liked them since I was a kid, because when you're like 5 or 6 years old, they are taller than you. And size-wise, there's not much else when it comes to common water birds that reach that size. Anybody can go and see them pretty much on a local waterway. They have a good distribution across the UK.
Later that night, a beaver came out and feasted on the apple snack, allowing us to get a look at the animal, and I'm pleased to say it's in good health. Great news for Trentham and the rest of their wildlife.